For much of his 20-year career in law enforcement, retired Lieutenant Eric Nation worked on narcotics-related assignments in Jasper County, Iowa. During that time, he saw the devastating effects of drugs and drug trafficking on children firsthand. Eric is currently the Director of Training and Development for the National Alliance for Drug Endangered Children. He is a certified Core Deck instructor who has trained thousands of law enforcement personnel. Please welcome Eric Nation.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having myself and the National Alliance for Drug Endangered Children as part of your series. So, do you think that you can impact the lives of children that are living in homes where a parent or a caregiver is involved in substance abuse, whether positive or negative? Let me share a story with you. On this young lady's 10th birthday, she went to her teacher and let her teacher know that her parents or her caregivers were involved in the drug trades. The teacher, by protocol, was required to report this information to the school resource officer. The school resource officer, by protocol, was required to report this activity to the on-call task force detective, which happened to be myself that day. When we got this information, I had known Richard. He had been on our radar for quite a while throughout my narcotics career. And we decided that with the information that we had, we were going to apply for a search warrant. And we decided that during the application of that search warrant, that I was going to name the daughter in the warrant. The warrant was signed by the judge, and I had made the decision that we were going to execute the warrant that evening. We were going to execute it that evening because my daughter was playing softball. And I didn't want to miss yet another softball game of my daughter's. So we got together after my daughter's softball game, and we had our pre-raid briefing, and then we went and we executed the search warrant. We executed the warrant on the residence. Once inside, and the scene was secure, we discovered that the girl knew exactly what she was talking about. Inside the residence, we found a large sum of money and a large amount of drugs. If you've ever been involved in a search warrant, and one that was successful, you know the excitement that comes with it. We began the celebration, the fist bumps, the high fives, celebrating our victory of yet another wonderful bust. All in front of the 10-year-old daughter on her birthday. And as I walked Richard towards the patrol car that was parked in the front, Richard and I began in a conversation that didn't go very well. To the point that I got frustrated, and I'll never forget looking Richard dead in the eye and saying, "The only reason we're here is because of your daughter." I then brought Richard the rest of the way to the patrol car, and Richard went to jail. Once Richard got to jail, Richard made his first phone call. And this is his phone call that he made from the jail.
Are you there? Oh, how does it feel to know you just sent your dad to prison for a long time? No, you're not sorry. You had no business saying this to anybody. All you had to do is say something to me or Grandma. What business did you have going to run your office school? No, sorry, my hat. Fail sorry to it. Answer my question. Why did you go run your office school? No, you didn't have no business. Thanks to you, I'll be spending a lot of time in prison. I'm done talking to you. Bye.
Wow. Feel like you do the right thing. Think of the impact on this girl. Where does she go? She tried to do the right thing. Keep it in mind, our relationship at the time with other disciplines was poor, especially with child welfare. It was not a very good relationship. To the point, as you listen to the audio, you find out that grandma is a co-conspirator. But when asked by child welfare if grandma would be a good placement, we did not give them the information that they were needing because of our relationship. As a matter of fact, these are the kids, this girl included, that as we got ready to hand them off to our child welfare professionals, that almost on a regular basis in my mind, through my thoughts, we would pick these kids up, we would hand them off to the child welfare professionals, and I would think to myself, I'll see you in 10 years. It's a pretty good prediction because it's what I knew in my narcotics field. So where do kids like this end up? The girl on the other end of the phone that makes the phone call. They end up in the criminal justice system, just like I had predicted. What I see now is how my actions had a negative impact on her. We could have looked at her, and instead of saying in our minds, I'll see you in 15 years, I'll see you in 10 years, I'm going to change the trajectory of your life starting today. We know from statistics that 2.1 million children live with a parent that uses illicit drugs. We also know that number is low. We know it's low because it's only the children that have been identified. And there are many out there that have not been identified. We also know that rarely do parents use alone. Parents oftentimes use with other users. And if you bring another adult into this equation, that number goes from 2.1 million children to 9.2 million children. Equally as low for the reasons I just gave. The other thing that we commonly see is children of parents with substance use disorders have a higher likelihood of developing substance use disorders themselves. There's a video called Children See Children Do, and I think it explains it very well.
It looks like rain again today. Dark clouds gather and fill the sky. Don't know how to talk to you, just know how to say goodbye.
Have you actually got a driver's license? I don't think so.
Go back where you came from. Learn to speak English.
Go back where you came from. That's where they do it.
Is that what you think?
So we know this to be true. We're not saying all the time, but more often than not, we know this to be true. So let me give you another example. We're going to take a field trip right now. All of us are going to go stand by a busy road, and we're going to take an 8-year-old kid with us. Okay? And as we walk out there, this little kid, 8 years old, stands about this tall. We're going to go stand by the road, and we're going to look to the right, and we're going to see a school bus coming. We're going to look to the left, and we're going to see a school bus coming. Both those school buses are traveling approximately 45 miles an hour. At some point, that kid is going to get rambunctious, and that kid is going to start walking for that roadway. And every one of you are going to stop this kid from walking into that roadway. Every one of you. Because you understand the risk and the safety to that child. So I want to back up. Let's take this 8-year-old kid, and let's look to the left, and let's look to the right. And the buses have now turned into substance abuse or substance use. As this kid walks in front of these substance use or substance abuse buses, what do? We do nothing. We allow them to get hit and be impacted by the substance abuse bus. We allow this to happen. We allow this collision to occur. And then we want to play the blame game. If they would have done their job, if they would have done this better, if this would work, if this wouldn't work. But the only person impacted by our decisions to do nothing is the child. So we know that children plus drugs equal risk. I think the question out there is, what is risk? So risk comes in different ways, in different things. And I want to talk about prenatal risk. I'm not real up on how prenatal risk works because it's not in my profession. But what I do know is I had the opportunity to get educated by somebody that was in that field. And they made it pretty simple for me. They basically said, Eric, here's the way it is. Anything that the mother ingests while the baby's in utero affects the child. So anything the mother ingests, the baby ingests. Pretty simple. I can get that, right? And it's going to affect them from pregnancy for the rest of their life in some way. How about postnatal risk? I want to talk about postnatal risk because that is what we oftentimes see as professionals out in the field. We know these children come from chaotic environments. If you've ever been in a residence where this substance use is occurring, you understand chaos. What we don't oftentimes think about is how that chaos then impacts the child in different ways. So think about growing up in this chaotic environment, then going to school where structure is expected. These are the kids that are oftentimes then labeled as the bad kids, the kids that are acting out. Really, they aren't the bad kids. These are the children that are trying to leave a chaotic environment, go to a structured environment, and don't know how to do so. And until we start working together and truly collaborating as disciplines and sharing that information, how are we ever supposed to provide services to this child so that they can then operate in a controlled environment? I also want to talk to you about lack of supervision. We all get the lack of supervision when it comes time to a toddler running around in a parking lot, in the cold, in a diaper, right? That lack of supervision, wear the appropriate clothing. Or when we talk about a child that's running around at 4 o'clock in the morning when nobody else is around, nobody out there watching them. We get that. What I want to challenge law enforcement is to this. What about the children that are not present, that are not on the scene, but yet there's signs of them? So I want you to think about the traffic stop. You conduct a traffic stop. You make an arrest. During your vehicle inventory, you find items that belong to a child. As you're doing that vehicle inventory and you find those child's items, how often do you go back and look for that child? Because you can ask the parent or the caregiver that you just arrested, where's the child? And they're going to tell you at Uncle Tim's or Uncle Sam's. And you go to Uncle Tim's and Uncle Sam's and they aren't there. Where's the next place you look? Their house. And oftentimes you will find these children are left home alone until their caregiver gets out of jail for an unknown amount of time. I also want to talk about lack of necessities. We as disciplines have the ability to come up with our own definitions. And my definition of necessities is going to look different than anybody else's. But what we know is we have a child welfare profession that assesses risk and safety on a daily basis on necessities. My challenge to you is this. If you don't understand their definition of necessities, you are going to cause frustration. Because if they don't line up, you are going to become frustrated. And that frustration is going to impact only one population in the end, and that's the child. So I was fortunate enough in my career to be impacted by a mission. That mission was the Drug Endangered Children mission. National DEC is a nonprofit organization that works with state, local, and tribal alliances throughout the United States. They provide training and technical assistance to focus on changing the trajectory of children's lives. Basically, rescue, defend, shelter, and support these children. I believe DEC came into my life in a positive way because it is the only multidisciplinary team mission that I've ever seen work successfully because it was based around our children, and we could all buy into it. So moving forward, my challenge to you is this. We have to change the status quo, because the status quo is not working. We have to start looking at drugs as not a victimless crime anymore, because drugs have victims, and they are the children that are involved or a part of this. We also have to remember it's never too early, it's never too late to intervene in a child's life or a family's life. And from a national DEC perspective, our vision is 100% healthy, happy, safe children. Another way to think of that is these children are 100% of our future. So my question to you is, if you don't intervene in these children's lives, who will? Thank you for your time.